guys? Kevin here from Relax to Learn Guitar, where folks over 40 go to learn to play the guitar. My easy to follow lessons because you're never too old to learn. We are already on day number 6 for our 7-day guitar starter series. Time is flying by, so congratulations for making it this far. If you need to check out any of the other lessons in the series, you can check those out above, so you can be kind of in the right order. They're very much set up that way. And for this number 6, rhythm and timing, so how to strum your guitar and still play in rhythm and in time. Probably the most important lesson in this series, in my opinion. So I'm going to show you some tricks you can use, little tips you can use to stay in time, and super important, just think about if you ever watch music or you're at a live event and you're seeing people play music, or maybe you're at church or whatever, just kind of look around and you'll see people, clapping, and usually in time. But there's always that one person who's not clapping at the right time, and it's very noticeable. Rhythm guitar is a little bit that way too. If you are, playing individual notes and you don't play the right note, you can pretty much quickly recover before most anyone's going to notice. If you are, on the other hand, especially if you're playing with other musicians and you're not playing in time and in rhythm, it's going to stick out. It's going to be noticeable. So probably one of the most important things to do, in my opinion, when you're learning how to play guitar is to play in rhythm and in time. And this lesson is kind of a combination of the things I've learned over the years and what I've seen people do well with. We're going to cover a lot of ground, so let's get started with this. The first thing, if you watch me play guitar, you'll notice there's a lot of things happening. And you've got to be able to fret the correct notes for the chords or the individual notes. Your arm is moving, your wrist is moving, your toes tapping, and if it's not, it will be after this lesson. But it all starts also with the guitar pick, and this is a lesson where we're going to use a pick. It's just, you hear flat picking, that's what that means. You're basically just using a pick to hit the strings on your guitar. So I'm going to show you the correct way to hold your guitar pick. So we're kind of starting out, like I said, we're going to start with basics, but these are things that if you build over time, you'll have some good habits, have your foundation to build on. So holding a guitar pick, I just use mostly these kind of like, there's smaller guitar picks, like a teardrop, or you might hear it called like a jazz pick. These are just kind of your standard size guitar picks that I use. And the first thing I tell people to do is to kind of remember way back when we had these things called remote controls. We had to click the remote control to have the channel on the TV change. We're going to pretend we're doing that again, even though now we just like talk to appliances. Anyway, so have your pick. You're going to lay it down here on if you're curving your finger like this, you're going to put your pick on your index finger kind of on this last kind of digit here, like this. And then you're going to put your thumb down like you're clicking the clicker, the remote control. My dad always called it the clicker. So you have this kind of a situation going on here. What I see a lot of new people do is pinch it. They want to kind of hold it back here. And if you, like I know, as I strum more than a couple of times holding it like that, it's going to fall out of my hand. It's going to go into the sound hole, never to be seen again. So you definitely want to have this grip, and the further up you move on the pick, you obviously want to have some sticking out here. I don't know, 1/4 inch or so. That's the part that's going to hit the strings. But you can hold it further back, but the further up you hold it, the more control you have. So the further back you're on the pick, you have a little more control if you move your finger and thumb up a little bit. Kind of that way. I always tell people you want to think of this analogy. You want to have this pick and hold it like a bird. You don't want to hold it so hard to crush it and it dies, but you also don't want it to fly away. So somewhere in the middle. And it's natural for and normal for the pick to bounce up and down a little bit between your index finger and your thumb. Okay? So let's talk about strumming motion here. When you watch me strum a guitar, you're not kind of holding it just horizontal to the ground and giving it this. You'll get kind of a harsh, loud sound. You want to have some movement, and it's mostly in your wrist. Now your elbow moves some. If you're Pete Townsend, it moves a lot. But for the purpose of this lesson, your wrist is going to move most of your actions there. And you want this to be a kind of like you're painting a fence. So this kind of a motion. And so when you're strumming down, your pick is actually more like a 45-degree-ish angle. And then when you strum up, kind of turn your wrist, rotating your wrist, and it's starting to point, you know, down at a 45-degree angle. So you have this action, nice and steady, nice and relaxed. But you want your wrist to be doing most of that movement. I'm just playing a G chord here. The other thing I tell folks is, typically when you're strumming down on the guitar, you're going to hit all the strings. Well, if it's a 6-string root, you're going to play all 6 strings. A C chord, you might play 5th string down. But when you're strumming up, you don't need to really worry about hitting all 6 strings when you're strumming up on a guitar. You're mostly going to hit these first 3 or 4 strings, the highest, thinnest strings. So a lot of stuff going on there. You've got to kind of get your fretting hand, you know, see that we've got that kind of pretty solid. This is a lesson that's focusing mostly all on this strumming hand. Okay? The next thing we're going to talk about is toe tapping. And I really encourage you to tap your toe to music. If you aren't already doing it now, you should really start. You want to do that and just annoy everyone around you. So the toe tapping is very important because we're going to kind of connect the strumming to it. So if you're just tapping your toe to the beat of a song, or this is kind of like with the clapping I was talking about earlier, hopefully you guys can hear my toe tapping the ground. You have that kind of nice and steady. So this is my foot, this is the ground. So we're going to do a little bit of counting. We're going to count a lot. So when your toe hits the ground, those are the whole beats. So just 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? 1, 2, 3, 4. Now we're going to connect our strumming to that. So you're going to tie an imaginary piece of string around your wrist, and then you're going to tie it to your toe. And when that toe hits the ground, it's dragging your wrist down to strum down on your guitar. Okay? Now remember, you've got a kind of a 45-degree angle, you're holding that pick. I'm going to show you 2 strum patterns that will play and work with every single song ever written, pretty much. So the first strum pattern is just 4 down strums, counting those numbers when your foot hits the ground. 1, 2, 3, 4. My bag's a packed, I'm ready to go. You can apply this to almost every song, and it's a really good pattern just to start with when you're a beginner. Now, if you always played every song with that strum pattern, it's going to get a little boring pretty fast, so that's why there's lots and lots of strum patterns. We're covering 2 in this lesson. Now we're going to do the second one, and this is where we're going to count both when your toe hits the ground and when it comes back up. So when it hits the ground, those are still 1, 2, 3, 4. But now we're going to add in an and. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Okay? And saying a lot of ands. When your imaginary piece of string is tied to your wrist and your toe and it drags it down, your wrist coming back up is going to drag your toe, pull your toe back up. So you have 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. 2 and 3 and 4 and. Remember, you don't have to strum all 6 strings for the up. Just worry about those first 3 or 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. And take it nice and slow when you're first starting out. I tend to play a little fast. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Those 2 strum patterns, just alternating with that first one. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And the next one. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. This should be the first 2 strum patterns you learn. Like I said, you can apply those to most every song out there, at least first starting out. And the other thing that's really important with strumming in rhythm and time is a metronome. So if you don't have yourself a metronome, I use a old school analog blue clunky plastic one. And you can get apps that are metronomes. There's all kinds of stuff out there. So just in a very basic sense, when you have a metronome, they do all kinds of fancy things. You just want it to beep on the beat, or like a quarter note beat. So if you have it, and you can set the speed. BPM stands for beats per minute. We're going to put this one like on 70, just for the purposes of the rest of this. So yeah, your toe should be hitting the ground when that beep happens. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And if you add in the ands in between, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. A really good tool to use to get yourself started and getting that beep ingrained into your brain. Eventually you won't need to use a metronome because you'll just have kind of trained yourself to play in time with some of these, with the toe tapping and the metronome combined. You'll get that over time. But first starting out, a metronome is super important. You'll see BPM for a lot of songs, beats per minute, and that's kind of what the song is recorded at. I always tell people to learn things correct first and quickly later, so you can always slow things down in your metronome when you're first starting out and learning a song. The other thing you can do with a metronome is use it to practice your finger exercises that we covered back in lesson 4, I think. Again, that's just on 70, so you're just plucking down each one. You can slow it down even further. Let's just kind of do like 60. And you can use it to practice your chords. The pick, strum pick. So it's a very useful tool to use for practice, whether it's coming to your finger exercises, individual notes, playing those chords, but especially for strumming and playing in rhythm and in time. If you'd like even more tips on how to play in rhythm and time, check out the lesson above, and definitely check out the next lesson and final one in this 7-day Learn to Play Guitar starter series here on YouTube. Doing some fingerstyle lessons in that one, and very cool. Check that out as well. If you have not yet subscribed, please do so. I'll see you in more of my videos, and you guys take care.